So this may come as a surprise to some of you, but men have feelings too. Okay? Whether you believe it or not, it's true. And not only do they have feelings, they have concerns, they have fears, they have issues that they have to consider when it comes to deciding if they want to pursue a long-term relationship and just how that may affect them in the long run, right? Or what they're going to be up against. And so these common concerns that men have are things that I think I believe it's important for women to know them, because when you know them, you'll better understand how to navigate them, or you'll better understand what may be triggering a man in certain moments, right? And of course, I acknowledge and understand there are concerns and fears that women have with men, you know, but we're gonna focus on the men's side as far as what they're looking at, okay? And let me say now, some of these things you may think are foolish, but we both have to learn. When I say we both, men and women, we have to learn to not be dismissive of each other's feelings, concerns, and issues, even if they don't fully resonate with us personally. We just have to understand and respect them for what they are, because it's real. And I'm telling you things that are very common amongst men. So one of the common concerns men have with women is all about money. All right. Initially, I was going to make it about the concern that the woman is going to use them for their money. But I really want to go even further than that, because there's so many different angles here we can talk about. But the bottom line is, you look on the internet and you'll see in many comment sections, if the question is asked, what do women care about? Men will comment on their money, 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 because that's what they really believe is the biggest driving factor for a lot of women in who they choose to be with, and things of that nature, and what they're willing to, how they're willing to show up for a man, depending on his financial status. Now, I know and acknowledge it's not all about money for every woman. I do believe that to be in a serious relationship, there needs to be a level of financial stability. If not, we're making things a lot more difficult for ourselves. And of course, that's going to vary depending on where you are in this world, what communities you're in, things of that nature. But for the most part, there's nothing wrong with desiring financial stability. But I also understand that there's tons of women right now who are with men who are flat out broke. All right. So it's not like women only care about money. But is that how many men think? Yes. Okay. So let's start with the angle of one concern with money is the expectation of what he has to provide financially. All right. So there's a lot of men. Some of you have even experienced it where you've met a guy, you guys hit it off, and he may say something like, you know what, I don't know if I'm ready for something serious yet because I'm not where I want to be financially. Now, some of y'all, when y'all heard it, may have felt like this is nonsense. He's making an excuse. It's a scapegoat. And some instances, yeah, that might have been the case. But in many instances, no, he's being genuine, because he has his own perception and belief of what he needs to be able to provide financially to be in a stable, healthy relationship, because he has seen many other men suffer who could not provide or who did not have a certain level of stability in their life. And for some, it just may be what they desire for themselves, and they don't want the distraction of a romantic relationship right now until they get to a certain level. But it's a legit concern, all right? And since I think most of us will agree that money is one of the driving factors of divorce, right? It's fair for a man to have some level of concern with it. So what he is expected to provide, and for some men, what they view as the pressure of it, is a concern. Now, I say it that way because I'm going to be real, and maybe I'm wrong or out of touch, okay? I don't view the expectation on me as a man to provide financially as this pressure. I just view it as this is life. Like, this is what it is. I even think about the scripture, a man who does not work does not eat. Like to me, we here to work, and that's just the way it is. I don't view it any differently. And to me, whether I'm with someone or not, I gotta work. I gotta be providing some way, somehow. So I don't view it in this pressure type of way. But a lot of men, it does feel like a lot of pressure to them. And that is one of the common concerns. Now, another layer of the money discussion is a woman just using you for money. Now, I always make the joke that there's men who ain't even got money worried about being used for money. That's how real it is. That's how serious it is, that even those who don't have it are projecting a fear, oh, well, what if she just wants to use me for that, right? But then there are men who are successful, who are financially stable, or even just flat out rich, right? And that is a common concern for them, is figuring out which woman actually wants them for them versus just what they can provide financially. Okay? Now, I think it's unfortunate, though I understand why they have this concern. Excuse me. I think it's unfortunate because I feel that fear is blinding them in a lot of ways. And they're not understanding that they can still properly, there's a way to properly evaluate this woman on whether she's genuinely about being with you or not. But for many, this fear can turn into them testing women by, I had one guy say he'll show up to a date in like a beat up car, even though he has a separate, really nice one, and dressed down and all these things. And I'm like, don't do that. That's nonsense. There's no need for that. But that's how far some will take it, right? And there's all kinds of other examples of what some men will do in this attempt to guard themselves from falling into the arms of a woman who just wants to take advantage of them financially. So either way, it is another common concern. And I also think that there's again, it's not just the fear of being used for money, but the fear of being only wanted because of your money, right? Because now, the reality is people want to be loved. People want real love, and they want to feel like you're with them for them, and they want to feel like if bad times hit, you won't just up and leave me, okay? Now, I think there's a lot more layers to that topic itself of the whole a man falling on hard times and how a woman navigates that. And I don't think it's an automatic every single time, no matter what, stay by his side, because there are some situations where the man takes advantage of it, right? And does not have well intent during those times. And a woman, depending on the situation, should not be expected to just let this man take advantage and now put all the burden on her. But that's very different from someone who's actually trying and putting in the work. But the bottom line is, at the foundation of that issue, for a lot of men, is just knowing, okay, because you love me for me, you'll have my back when I'm struggling. And of course, the well-intended man knows he still has to put in work on his end. But bottom line is money, and there's probably more areas I kind of overlooked at the moment, but money is definitely a common concern men have with women. All right, so now let's keep this going. This next concern that a lot of men have with women, I was hesitant to mention this next because I don't want to push anyone away who may not like the topic, but it's just real, and so we gotta put it out there. So the other concern that men have is about a woman's sexual past. Okay. Now, let me say this. Not every man has that concern. There are a lot of men who are at a point where it's almost like, don't ask, don't tell. I ain't gonna ask you what you've been doing or how many people you've been with or anything like that. Let's just leave that discussion alone. Let's just proceed with where we are now. And then there are other men who will straight up ask you, and they want to know and they want to dig into that. But I think whether he asks or not, there's some level of concern, and some is just more than others, all right? But the sexual past concern, I really want to bring clarity to this, because I am a firm believer, Because you'll hear on the internet people talk about women's body count, and they don't, no man wants a woman with a high body count, all this stuff. I'm not saying there isn't some level of truth to that. However, here's my counter argument. I feel that for a lot of men, not all, but for a lot of men, the real issue isn't your sexual past, it's if people know it. So essentially, if you did your thing, and some of you don't have a past like that, but if you do, and you did your thing, and nobody knows about this, meaning if he goes back, if y'all went to your high school reunion, or I don't know, went to an event or something in the community, and there aren't people there looking at you like, yeah, they done been with you and all this stuff, like it's known and talked about, oh, okay. There are men who have gotten with women who have found out she had a serious past, but once someone's really into you and likes you, many will become more flexible with things like that. It only becomes a bigger struggle, and a struggle that many cannot conquer, when it's a known past by other people, especially if those other people are like close friends and family. That's when it becomes more difficult. Now, again, I'm only expressing this or explaining this to you so you're aware of what this is and how this whole dynamic works. It doesn't mean you have to choose to make it a concern for you, but it's something to be mindful of, okay? And so, yes, I do believe that's the case. But there are other individuals who believe that the woman's sexual past so basically there's a study that shows the more partners a woman has been with, the higher rate of divorce, okay? And so because of that, they feel like, and they say basically the more she's been with, the harder it is for her to truly bond and connect with a man. Now, I am of the personal belief, and I want to put this out there, not just for you as women watching this, but for any man who might be watching this video. I don't believe, if there is an issue with being able to truly bond with a man, and how it affects her chances of divorce, I believe it's more so based off of what has not been healed in the process, okay? So essentially, if you have a woman, she's had her past, but whatever underlying issues that may exist, if that is the case for that woman, and in many cases that is a real thing, if she's done her inner work, she's healed, I don't think these issues that they're pointing out in these studies are going to truly apply to her. On the flip side, you could have a woman who's only been with 2 guys, but if she's experienced some serious or deep emotional trauma with them, and she hasn't healed from that, she can have just as hard of a struggle connecting and bonding with any man, because she has a great fear of being vulnerable and opening herself up in that way, and she hasn't healed those things. So to me, it's really about whether the person has healed or not. That's going to really determine their ability to have a healthy relationship. But again, I just want you to be aware, this is what a lot of men are considering and also hearing on the internet. And so it plays into their perception of a woman's past. So one way or another, it is something that a lot of men care about. Some of you may say, well, I care about it too. Or some of you may question, why is it that it matters so much to a man, but these men will be out there sleeping with whoever? One, please understand, the majority of men ain't got a whole bunch of partners. I know that might sound crazy to you, but understand the majority of men, the average man, is not just bagging chicks. Let me not say it like that. Erase that part. The majority of men aren't just getting women left and right, all right? And so they don't have a whole bunch of partners, which is going to increase the chances of them caring about your past as well. Whereas the guy who actually has slept around and been all over the place, he actually is less likely to make an issue of a woman's past, all right? If you sit down and talk to a lot of those guys, they have a very different outlook because of how they've lived their life themselves. But ultimately, when it comes to, well, why does a man care, but they still doing all this? At the end of the day, everyone can choose to care or not. Like if a woman wants to use a man's sexual past as a concern that she's going to use to evaluate whether she wants to be with him or not, she has the right to do that. And a man may do it as well. But if you choose not to, but he chooses to do it, it's not about whether it's fair or not fair. It's people will use different things in order to determine if they want to be with someone and select them as a partner. Everyone has to make that choice for themselves. But ultimately, yes, a woman's past is a concern for a lot of guys. All right, so we got a few more to go. And here's another common concern men have with women, and that is selfishness. A woman who makes it all about her. So I know for some of you ladies, you may be thinking, nah, it's these men out here who are selfish. But I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of men have experienced a selfish woman. A lot of men have dealt with a woman where everything was all about her, and his needs or his desires or his feelings were constantly dismissed. Now, I know we may say, well, if that's how she's treating him, then he should just leave her alone. Of course, but the reality is that, and I have to say this, a lot of men were not taught how to have a backbone in a relationship with a woman they care, love, or highly desire. I had to use highly desire because sometimes it's infatuation, it's obsession, it's not real love, but it's still a strong enough emotion that because they want this woman so bad, they become overly accommodating. And the minute she starts to show any level of selfishness or brattiness or whatever, they just give into it to try to make her happy, and they don't want to lose this woman, but they don't realize they're losing themselves in the process. And so because this has been the experience for many men, not all, but for many men, or they have seen many other men go through that, and I even have to point out the whole, you hear a lot of men now dismissing the phrase happy wife, happy life, okay? Because to them, that's a selfish mindset that says it's all about the woman and you sacrifice your happiness. Now, I never personally viewed happy wife, happy life in that way. I viewed it as, if I examine relationships and I see a household where the woman is genuinely happy, genuinely feeling good, right? It typically means a healthy, happy household, all right? That energy, that spirit typically pours over into everyone else in the household and everyone wins. Whereas if I see a woman who is very unhappy in that household, it has the opposite effect. It's a very negative or miserable household in a lot of different ways. So that's how I viewed it, but not in the sense of a man just losing himself and trying to accommodate the woman in order to make her happy, because that actually doesn't even truly make her happy. The woman who's truly selfish is not even satisfied by that because there's a deeper issue going on there. All right. And she's probably not really into the man, so she'll never truly be happy with the man. That's a whole different discussion. But the point is, the selfishness has been the experience of many, and so it is a common concern. And then what happens is, when you hear narratives like even she's the prize, it triggers some of these men, all right? Because again, it speaks to, oh, I have to put her on a pedestal. I have to make it all about her, and I'm a second-class citizen in this relationship, all right? Now, let me clarify as well. I believe both the man and the woman are a prize. No one is the prize. No one is on a higher pedestal than the other. They are both the prize, and they should both treat each other like the blessing that they are, okay? Because if you ask a woman who has a great, amazing man she's in love with and happy with, she'll tell you he's a blessing. You ask a man who has a great, amazing woman that he's in love with, and he'll tell you she's a blessing. So they're both blessings to each other. It's not about one being the prize and the other not. But these types of things trigger these men, and for some men, it's turned them into now saying, no, they're the prize. They're trying to counter this by now taking the opposite stance. But it's just highlighting the fact that this is a big issue because many, if not selfish in, let me put it like this, because some of y'all may say, well, I'm not selfish, but you may not realize that you can be very emotionally selfish, all right? And when you're in your feelings or when you feel a certain kind of way about things, you may not realize how much that blinds you from how you're dismissing his feelings, how you're ignoring the impact on him. You're not taking that into account because you're consumed by your own, and that still presents you as emotionally selfish. And so it's something to be mindful of because you gotta make sure that that man is feeling as loved as you want to feel, that you are both getting what you need from each other and pouring into each other, and that it's not a one-sided relationship. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. Everyone wants to feel desired by the person they have genuine interest in. I think pretty much all of you, if not all of you, can agree with that statement, okay? And I think that as women, you really